Super Mario 64 is an amazing game with a ton of levels. However, some levels range heavily from bad to spectacular. So in this video, we will rank all 15 levels in Mario 64. Alright, let's get into it. First off, we have Bob-omb Battlefield. This is a great first area as it's very free and open to mess around with the controls for beginners. The stars are also very creative and memorable, with missions such as King Bob-omb, Shoot to the Island in the Sky, and Chain Chomp's Gate. This is an amazing first level, so it will get A tier. Next is Whomp's Fortress, and this is one of my favorite levels. The stars are just as creative as Bob-omb Battlefield, with killing the big thwomp, using the owl to get to the cage star, and more. This level also introduces slightly tighter platforming to get a feel for how the game will be later. This is also a generally fun level with all of its gimmicks, so this will get A tier. Next off is Jolly Roger Bay, and I don't really like this one. I know it's common to hit on the fact that it's a water level, but it just feels so sluggish to play. The ship and eel are pretty cool, but that doesn't change how slow it feels. I always avoid this one unless I actively have to play it. C tier. Now we have my favorite level in the game, Cool Cool Mountain, and there's so much to do in this level. There's a massive slide you can ride on, which is pretty fun. I also like the obsession with penguins, because you can race a big penguin, you can yeet off a penguin, bring a penguin to its mother, and more. I always come back to this one because it's just actively fun to play. S tier. Number 5 is Big Boo's Hunt, and while this isn't my favorite, it definitely is an objectively good ghost house level. It's a massive mansion with many rooms, many secrets, and many challenges. I especially like the Ghost Hunt star and both of the King Boo fights. However, just like most ghost houses, it's really easy to get lost, and it gets really boring after a while. Still a decent level, so B tier. Our first level in the basement is Hazy Maze Cave, and while I don't like this level, it is objectively good. It has a lot of content such as puzzles, tons of enemies, and secrets, including the metal cap. It is quite boring, however, as that there is a lot of waiting on these platforms. It feels quite slow of a level, but it's still objectively good, so I'll give it B tier. I know this is supposed to be swapped with Lethal Lava Land, but here we go. Now we have Shifting Sand Land, which is actually a pretty good level. I usually hate desert levels, but this is an exception. It has many creative ideas, like chasing a massive bird, going inside and climbing up a massive period, running up pillars. It is pretty fun collecting all of these stars and has a variety of enemies. I'll give this A tier. Now we have my second favorite level in the game, Lethal Lava Land. Just like other levels in this game, it is very creative with things, such as going to volcanoes, pushing bullies into lava, and walking on a massive puzzle of Bowser. One thing I love doing in this level is grabbing the Koopa shell and sliding across the lava. It is so fun. Easy S tier. Before we move on, just so you know, the rest of the tier list is going to be a little out of order, so just stick with me. Now we have Wet Dry World, which is not exactly the best level, but it is pretty decent. It is absolutely humongous with a giant city to explore, and it has puzzles. The only problem is that it's basically 70% water, which like the other water levels makes it feel sluggish. There are also only a couple of enemies, but the problem is that all of you just throw you off of high platforms. It's super annoying. I'll put this one in B tier. Next up is Snowman's Land, which is a great stage by all means. It does a couple of things from Cool Cool Mountain and has some new ideas. One of my favorite parts is that there's a massive snowman in the middle of the stage for you to climb up. Just like Lethal Lava Land, there's also a massive fight against a bully for a star. It's really fun to mess around in this level, just like Cool Cool Mountain. A tier. Rising up is Tall Tall Mountain, which is a pretty standard but great level. It has a good amount of enemies, challenging platforms, and ideas. It is fun quickly climbing up this extremely tall mountain, and just like Cool Cool Mountain, there's a hidden slide that is super fun. I also think it's kind of funny that there's a monkey that tries to steal your hat. A tier. Striking up 12 is Tick-Tock Clock, and this one is a pretty okay level. It is pretty creative going inside a clock, and the platforming's pretty fun, but the problem is that it's so annoying when you fall all the way back down. It's kind of why I don't really like this level, but I also do like it at the same time, so B tier. Next up is Dire Dire Docks, and this one suffers the same fate as Jolly Roger Bay. It still is a slog to play, except it's slightly harder this time, and I absolutely hate the red coin star. The submarine is cool, but it is really useless. It's a bad level, and I'll put it in D tier. Now we have Tiny Huge Island, which is actually really creative. The size gimmick is great, and I really love the Wiggler fight. However, the stars other than that are pretty basic. I love the platforming in this one, and this one is great, so I'll put it in A tier. Finally, we have Rainbow Ride, which is pretty disappointing. Riding on the carpets is so slow. I could learn a language in the time that it takes to go from places. The stars are also really basic, and I really don't like the red coin star. I always avoid this one unless I actively have to play it, so C tier. And that is our final tier list. All 15 Mario 64 levels ranked. I had a lot of fun making this video, but it did take a long time, so if you could subscribe, but it's completely optional. See you in the next one. Bye!